I think it's a great question because right now I believe that we are at a tipping point in terms of where business and sustainability are coming together. And so the leaders of tomorrow are going to be the leaders that understand both sustainability and business and understand the business value of sustainability. And so when I've talked about this at public events, it really comes down to three things. It comes down to investors, customers, and employees. And more we're seeing that sustainability has impact on the company across those three very important stakeholders. So I think the leaders of tomorrow are going to understand that. They're going to be able to translate the language of sustainability into the language of business. And that's where it's really going to get interesting, because companies increasingly are not only seeing the risk involved, but they're seeing the value of sustainability. Yeah, and I think that's really where the tipping point I was talking about is coming. So as I mentioned, I've really recently been working with a lot of investors. And stepping back, I've been in this field for 30 years now. And before we had a term sustainability or corporate responsibility was thought, what is that? Now it's really mainstream, and we're seeing some of the biggest asset owners in the world ask for sustainability information. I mentioned BlackRock, $6.3 trillion under management. Their CEO, Larry Fink, wrote a letter saying, we're not just interested in companies in our portfolio for their profits. We're interested in their contribution to society, because they know that companies that treat the environment and the people around them well will have a market for many years to come. It really comes down to, are we thinking short term, make a profit really quickly, or are we thinking long term, make a profit throughout our lives? And if you're thinking long term, you really have to be considering what is your impact on the environment and to people. So that's one part of it, but I think the second part is really more important, which is when companies start seeing sustainability challenges as opportunities, that's when we really unlock capitalism to help us on the journey to sustainable development. It's a very good question, and there's actually a book on this. It's called CSR for HR. a lot of abbreviations there. But the reason I say it's a very good question is I mentioned before that one of the major values in corporate responsibility is employees. Why is that a value? Well, one of the most inspiring things in my career is seeing as young people enter the workforce, they want to work for more than just a paycheck. They want to work for a company that actually produces some good for the world. And as companies are in a war for talent, trying to attract the best and the brightest, they have to be able to demonstrate that they are also producing good for the world. But it goes beyond that. Employees want to work for a cause. So when you engage them in a cause at work, then work becomes their cause. And it's really interesting. When I was in my last company at AMD, we tried to test whether the employees that got involved in the community were actually more engaged than the average employee. So we did a correlation between the number of the volunteer hours per employee and their engagement scores on our survey. And it turned out the employees that volunteer, the more they volunteer, the more they're engaged. So there is real value in CSR, corporate social responsibility, for human resources.